your team isn't performing to your standard, or there are some strange and unexpected behaviors that leaves you wondering where those come from. What if the problem isn't your team, but your leadership? Now, just hear me out first. I work with many leaders who could describe their team as disengaged, unmotivated, lacking initiative, not creative or innovative, and unwilling to take ownership. But what if those descriptions are symptoms of a deeper problem? You see, in the workplace, team members respond to their environment, to what is rewarded, tolerated, encouraged, and ignored. And your job as a leader is, through your leadership, to create that environment. So if a team appears disengaged, unmotivated, lacking initiative, not creative or innovative, and unwilling to take ownership, chances are they are responding to an environment that leadership has created. As a team member or individual contributor, working hard, solving problems, and delivering results gets you that promotion. Then you become a team leader and continue doing exactly the same thing. You work even harder, solve harder problems, make more decisions, and jump in wherever something goes wrong. Sounds like a plan. Except the problem is that leadership is no longer about your personal output. It's about creating output through others. That's where many leaders struggle. Because nobody tells them that building a high-performing team requires a completely different set of skills. Leadership communication, performance conversations, conflict management, accountability, trust, coaching, having a clear vision that gives purpose and direction. Everyone is a skill set on its own. And when these skill sets are weak individually, they are weak collectively. And so, the team adapts. They become disengaged, unmotivated, lack initiative, are not creative or innovative, and are unwilling to take ownership because they are responding to the environment around them that's created by the leader. This creates a dangerous cycle where, because the leader can't lead well, is unaware of their own inadequacies, and they blame the team. The team disengages further. The leader becomes frustrated and performance drops again. Eventually, everyone, the big boss, the leader themselves, and even the team thinks motivation is the problem. But that's just a symptom, because motivation was never the problem. The environment that the leader has created is the problem. So I want to share with you 5 leadership mistakes where once you recognize them, you will stop blaming the team and start taking ownership to improve your leadership. The first mistake is assuming people know what good performance looks like. Many leaders tell their teams to take ownership, be proactive, or show initiative. But very few leaders clearly define what that looks like. The leader understands it in their own mind, but unless clearly articulated, the team often doesn't. When expectations are unclear, people become cautious. They don't know how much authority they have, what decisions they can make, or what success looks like. Now, some of you might be thinking, don't we have goal setting for every project or at the start of the year? Yes, but how specific are they? Let me give you an example. We were doing a goal setting exercise in a classroom, and I had one participant who wrote down that he wanted his team to achieve an extra $100,000 in revenue from the organization's top 5 clients. Part of that exercise was to misinterpret the goals that had been set. So one of his fellow participants asked if they would be considered successful if the 100,000 came from other clients beside their top 5. The first participant said yes. Now, whether you approach only the top 5 clients or the rest of the client base will drive different behaviors and approaches and have different expectations. But I'm not saying we have to be so specific for every set goal, because obviously judgment is required. As a result, a leader sees hesitation and may call it laziness. The employee, on the other hand, experiences uncertainty and confusion. The gap causes frustration on both sides. People rarely perform confidently when they are constantly guessing what good looks like. Leadership starts with clarity, defining clear standards and rules of engagement. Say you want to see more ownership of work in your team. Then you first have to let them know that is expected of everyone, including yourself. Then as you come across situations in your team, explain and point out behaviors of ownership or where there were missed opportunities in those same situations. And you have to do this consistently over a period of time until the team gets it and start to display those behaviors on their own. People cannot consistently achieve standards they have never clearly understood. You can apply having clear standards to different areas of your leadership, such as performance conversations, conflict management, accountability, trust, coaching, having a clear vision, etc. Clarity creates confidence, which leads to action. But even when standards are clear, people still need a reason to care. Because knowing what to do doesn't automatically create commitment. And that's where mistake number 2 comes in. Many leaders communicate tasks, but few communicate purpose. People know what they need to do, but not why it matters to them. Without purpose, work becomes transactional. People complete the task, but don't feel connected to the outcome. They comply without committing. And over time, energy, ownership, and engagement drops. And leaders then wonder why their teams seem unmotivated. The reality is that people often struggle to give that extra effort when they can't see the bigger picture. Now, effective leaders provide context. They help people understand how their work contributes to the team, the customer, and the organization. People don't need constant external motivation acting on them, but they do need meaning to sustain their internal motivation over the long run. New leaders, and even some experienced ones, often miss this. They see their job as delegating work, setting goals, then leaving the rest up to the team member to complete. What they seldom do is understand the team members' strengths and weaknesses, their career interests, and then align the work to those same strengths and interests. When people understand why their work matters and how it's of a benefit to them, they naturally become more invested in it. And it's not about the skill of talking about vision, giving direction, and the necessary context, although that's important. What's essential is that you yourself have to believe it's important to do so. But purpose alone isn't enough because teams are constantly watching what leaders tolerate. That's where many leaders make their third mistake. And if you find value in this video so far, take a second to hit the like button. It helps leaders discover the channel, and it tells YouTube you would like to see more leadership and people management content. Now, let's continue. Many leaders know they should address performance issues, but they avoid difficult conversations, hoping the situation improves on its own. I do some work with the civil service here in Singapore. It's very common to have some older employees, a few years from retirement, who want to just cruise and do the minimum until the end. This, of course, creates a lot of frustration within the team because often the rest of the team has to pick up the slack. And the team leader doesn't do anything about it or seems unable to meet the challenge head-on. Eventually, high performers in the team begin asking themselves why they are working harder when poor or minimum performance has no consequences. That's when performance standards start falling across the team. Leadership requires courage. Effective leaders address issues early and respectfully, not because they enjoy confrontation. After all, nobody wants to have those difficult conversations, but because to close an eye on one troublemaker is to not protect the rest of the team. One thing I ask my participants is this: who is more valuable, the team or that one individual team member? Everyone says the team. No one ever says that one individual team member. Because we all know that no individual, no matter how talented, is better, stronger, or faster than a group of people working together. That's when they realize they can no longer tolerate poor or minimum performance because the cost of inaction outweighs the cost of taking action. And having the conversation isn't easy, but it's necessary, and you got to keep practicing it until you get good at it. What leaders tolerate becomes the team's culture, whether the team leader desires it or not. Even with clear standards and not tolerating minimum performance, people still don't fully contribute if they don't feel safe speaking up. And that's mistake number 4. I was just having a conversation with a prospective client the other day, and he was sharing one of the feedback items from their recent employee survey. Some employees don't feel safe to speak up. Many leaders believe they lead in a psychologically safe manner. What's more important is whether the employees believe that psychological safety exists and behave accordingly. And people pay more attention to your actions and behaviors than your words, because talk is cheap and action always comes with a cost. When ideas are casually dismissed without much of a thought, people take it as a signal to stop sharing ideas. When mistakes are punished without a proper understanding of whether it was intentional or accidental, people take it as a signal to stop taking risks. When concerns are ignored without being listened to with empathy, people take it as a signal that you really don't care. Eventually, the team may learn that silence becomes the safest option, and that silence can take the form of disengagement, low motivation, no initiative, no creativity or innovation, and unwillingness to take ownership. Then the leader complains that nobody contributes, but actually it's the team that's protecting themselves from wasting their limited time and energy when it's not appreciated. Effective leaders create psychological safety, and they know it's working when people feel safe to open up, ask questions, share ideas, admit mistakes, and challenge assumptions respectfully without negative consequences or adverse blowback from you or any other member of the team. That's how engagement, motivation, initiative, creativity, innovation, and ownership begins. But even safe teams can become dependent if the leader keeps solving every problem, which brings us to the final mistake. Team members do work. Team leaders create the environment for team members to do work. Heads of department create strategic alignment so all their team leaders are pointing their teams in the same direction. The most common mistake I see will be leaders who lead in their newly promoted position while using a lower level of leadership. In this case, it's team leaders who continue behaving like their old high-performing individual contributor self. I shared this before in one of my other videos. As an individual contributor, you are assessed on your abilities to solve problems, answer questions, and respond to issues as they arise. As a team leader, if you do that, it can feel productive. But over time, the team learns that the boss will think, solve problems, and respond for them. Eventually, initiative, creativity, innovation, calculated risk-taking, decision-making disappears. Not because people are lazy, but because they've been trained to depend on the leader. Leadership is developing thinking, not creating dependencies. Instead of giving answers, ask questions. Giving answers creates dependencies. Asking questions promotes critical thinking and eventually ownership. Your goal of leadership isn't to become indispensable, but to make the team stronger without you, because you are not always going to be around. And definitely you support your team. But how you go about supporting them shouldn't take away the opportunities and situations to develop them. At this point, some of you watching might be thinking, what about those genuinely lazy employees? Let's talk about that. Can employees be lazy? Of course. Some people have poor attitude, avoid responsibilities, and don't want to improve. I want to say that most people go into work wanting to do their best. Unfortunately, sometimes what is their best might not be appropriate for the workplace and situations involved. But leadership isn't about complaining about reality. It's about improving it. Effective leaders diagnose the symptom and find the root cause. Effective leaders ask, what environment am I creating for the team? What conversations am I avoiding? Do I even know what standards I want? And have I articulated that to my people? Or what support is missing? They do their best to be as empathetic as possible for their team and to support them. Effective leaders also know when to draw the line and take a firm approach when dealing with underperformance. Ineffective leaders just blame the team. So, here are the 5 leadership mistakes. No clear standards, no compelling direction, poor performance is tolerated, people don't feel safe to speak up, the leader still thinks like an individual contributor. Every one of these points back to this bigger leadership problem. People respond to their environment. The moment you stop asking, what's wrong with my team, and start asking, what environment am I creating? Things can start to change for your leadership. If you made it this far, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel as it helps get this video to other leaders who face similar challenges. Here in Simple Leadership, I enable aspiring leaders, team leaders, and heads of departments to understand leadership in simple ways. And if you would like leadership lessons like this delivered directly to your inbox, do consider joining our mailing list so each new video goes to you directly. You will find the link in the description below. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Which of these 5 leadership mistakes resonated with you the most? Or is there another mistake you've seen that causes good people to disengage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, your team may not be lazy. They may simply be responding to your leadership. And if you want to understand how to go about the right way to motivate your people, then check out this video